Hello, seekers of self and explorers of life. Welcome back to another episode of the Muse Life. I'm your host, Elle, and I am a human design and self discovery coach. Today, I'm inviting you on another inspiring journey of self discovery and personal evolution. And we're going to be sitting down with Nicole Annmarie. She is a powerhouse of a woman, and she's transformed her feelings of doubt and defeat into a life full of intention, abundance, and confidence. As a mindset and mindfulness coach, Nicole guides Black and Brown women towards liberation and confidence, both at home and abroad. Having lived in multiple countries, including the US, the UAE, China, Egypt, and Thailand, Nicole's experiences have pushed her to confront her beliefs, her desires, and her life perspectives. She overcame great challenges, including releasing more than $40,000 in debt. She's been cultivating relationships and designing a life that feels aligned, liberated, and radiates confidence, which you will see. As a projector with a mental authority and a 2-4 profile in human design, Nicole embodies wisdom and guidance. She's guiding others to find their path through challenges in whatever life presents. So let's delve into Nicole's transformational journey and draw from the insights that her experiences have brought her. The wisdom that she shares is just truly amazing. So if this story resonates with you, I want you to make sure you like, share, and comment. And as always, do not forget to subscribe and stay connected with the Muse Life and the L Undefined channel. Now, without further ado, let's dive into Nicole's story. Hey guys, so my name is Elle. I'm a self-discovery coach, and this is the Muse Life Series. Today, I am in Bangkok, and I'm sitting here with my friend, my homegirl. We just met in real life like 2 days ago, y'all, but we've been rocking with each other for the past year. So I'm gonna let you introduce yourself and tell the people who you are and all those good things.
Thank you so much, Elle. Firstly, I am so thankful that you decided to come to Bangkok to connect and realizing that, yes, we are like definitely connected, very much aligned. Just, it's good. Don't take for granted the people you meet in these IG streets and
Right.
also in coaching programs. It could be life-changing. So I just want to thank you for having me on your series.
Thank you.
My name is Nicole Annmarie. I am an expat mindset and mindfulness coach, helping Black and Brown women feel real confident, grounded, and liberated abroad. And that's just like a quick spiel of what I am. I have a love for mindfulness and mindset because I really believe that when you tap into both of those things, you really live a very fulfilled life. And I would add to that, I think part of that is just like healing, right? Like checking our wounds, seeing things in our life that maybe is a block, and like working through that so that you can have like the greatest experience on this planet.
Yes, I love that. And I resonate with so many of the things that you talk about on your platform and how you use it. But before we even get into that, this whole series is about women who have decided to take a different path in their lives. And I've specifically chosen women who I see them, I know them, and I'm like, wow, I'm inspired by you and what you've been doing. So my first question that I really want to get into was, what was the breaking point in your life that led you to choose a different path for yourself?
Ooh, beautiful question. Um, it's funny. It's like, they always say, well, I don't know who they is, right? Because we say they, and then I'm like, who's they? Because I watch a video, and I'm like, who's they? Tell us. We
Right.
need to know. I would say that it was a collection of things. One, I noticed that like I would be so intrigued by people, even if I met them for a short period of time, who like lived these very unorthodox lives, especially if it was around traveling or doing something that's totally odd. I noticed that internally I would light up, and I would like, and I would wonder with myself, like, why am I lighting up? It's almost like my spirit was telling me that that's something that I'm intrigued by, something I felt that was very bold, No one around me, my immediate family, I think, lived that way. So I think for me, that curiosity was sparked. And then secondly, the Steve Jobs speech. I talk about that one of my first Travel Noir interviews. I remember I was teaching in New York City, and I was teaching my sixth graders, and it was part of the curriculum to do the Steve Jobs commencement address. If you have not watched, I highly suggest it. But one of the lines that stood out in that speech is that sometimes in life you get to connect the dots backwards. And I think it was almost like I saw it as, oh, when you follow spirit or when you follow like your intuition, it's not necessarily goal oriented where, oh, I need to get this thing. And as he told his story, right, about like becoming like this person who now would create the iPhone that we would all use, and like think about his legacy, a lot of it, he was like kind of trusting his gut and like talking about just like listening to this voice. And it brought me back to that whole first thing I mentioned, which was having this curiosity around travel and having this curiosity about like living in an unorthodox way. And then thirdly, I think just my spiritual walk. I've been on a spiritual journey. I feel like, my parents would say since Jesus was a boy, right? He's just afraid that my mom says all the time. And I think through my spiritual walk, it was really allowing me to tap into this idea or notion that I'm co-creating on this experience. Like I'm co-creating with source, God, universe, whatever way you want to use. And that also kind of gave me permission to say, oh, I don't have to live like how everyone is living. Like I actually could like make something up. Like I could,
Yes.
and I do think that first we understand something conceptually, which I feel like I was getting there. And then it was like this opportunity to play with that. And then fourth, for those of you that are in your head, right, like me, the part of me that would allow me to leap was the fact that I was in college loan debt. So like to me that logically made sense. Like let me move abroad and pay off these debts, right? So I that was easy because I think society, unfortunately, and just like, we live in a world that we need safety, right? I feel like the three reasons, I don't think it was easy to sell. Like, oh, my spirit just told me I want to go to, like, no one's going to, like, listen to you, like, saying that. But I'm like, oh, I want to pay off some debts. That was an easy sell.
Oh, okay. That's a good idea. Go ahead and do that, Nicole. Yeah.
Yeah, so it started with that. But then, of course, after that goal was achieved, then I was like, oh, I thought that I would have, I feel like I had the contentment, right? Who's to say, like, no one wouldn't be excited with student loan debts. But surprisingly, I thought I was gonna have a certain level of excitement with that, and I think I've had more excitement more about the other three parts, which is like this: I get to create, I get to design, and I think that after accomplishing that goal and realizing that I still wanted to stay abroad, then it let me know that like this shift was bigger than paying off debt. Like maybe that was what I needed to be comfortable to take the leap. But in all actuality, like getting to live abroad, getting to create a new design, like, like in my lineage was what my calling was. But so I say that all to say, so these four aspects, but I think the fourth one, unfortunately or fortunately, where you see, allowed me to quickly make the action, but those other three parts it was already in me.
It was like brewing underneath the
Yes,
surface. Yeah.
absolutely.
But the logical reason is what helps you justify it and actually take that leap.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you've been abroad for how long now?
I know. I am approaching 9 years. It is freaking wild.
Right. Oh my gosh. I don't know anyone personally that's been abroad for that long. So when you told me that, I'm just like, wow, you like, not an OG, like you like, oh, but it's, like a lot of people that I know, this is a whole new experience and we're navigating it and figuring it out. But to have someone like you, because, I'll slide in your DMs, like, when I was thinking about moving abroad, and I'm like, okay, well, how do you do this? And what resource are you using for that? And you've just been a really great resource for me. So I appreciate you. And it's not even just how to move abroad, but it's the whole, what you always say, getting grounded while you're abroad and what happens after you move abroad. Like, how do you navigate, and how do you make a home anywhere? I love when you say
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about, like, what does it mean to make a home anywhere?
You know, it's so funny because I think when you're back home, wherever home is for you, you only know that place. And the reality is that when you move to a new country, like everything is different, right? And how the way that I see home is like, how can you find your peace, your grounding, or something that makes you feel comfortable, makes you feel content, and makes you, I mean, I guess I only could really use the word grounded, like giving you like some kind of like base so that you can navigate the ups, the downs, the actual living part. Because I think most times we only think about moving abroad, right? And that's like one part, right? Like that's the part. But to me, it's really like when you arrive in this new country with new customs, new laws, getting familiar with like where you are, like you need to have some type of like rituals, routines. And just like how you have your program Muse, like if you don't actually know yourself, it's often hard to like figure these things out, because you more than likely, whether you want to really address it or recognize it, when you're at home you're kind of in a routine, or you've been doing something a certain way for so many years and certain times. But moving abroad allows you to kind of think, but do I like that? Am I doing that because like I have to do that, or am I doing that because this is what nurtures my soul? And then every country you might have different kind of routines and like different rituals. So it's like what gives you that like foundation when you wherever you are, so that you can thrive. I mean, that's essentially what I think about. And I think like knowing yourself, which your program, which is coming up, which I'm excited about,
Thank you.
really helps to make that happen. Because I don't think, regardless of age, I don't think many of us tend to really know ourselves. We only know our habits and what we've been doing, and we only know the conditions or what society has been telling us.
Yeah.
And I think what's beautiful about moving abroad is that you really get to like take like deconstruct these things.
It's like you're an onion and you start taking off all these layers.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of times people, to your point about not really knowing yourself, we don't take the time because we get so trapped in our day to day that we don't even take the time to get to know ourselves. And why do I believe this? Why do I do this? Where did it come from? Who taught this to me? Like, is this something that I really believe? Is this what I really want? And so for me, when I'm working with clients, it's all about like, who are you? Like beyond who everyone else is telling you to be. And even with that, like some people will say, oh, well, human design is just another label. I don't look at it that way. I look at it as a way for you to explore, like, does this resonate with me? Do I really feel like this is describing me? Can I experiment with this? It invites you to be curious, and that's what I really love about it. And also for me, it's not even just about human design, but just really sitting with yourself and getting reflective, getting curious, like, what do I want out of life? Who do I want to show up as? What feels authentic to me? And I liked what you said earlier about just the conditioning. And sometimes being abroad, it forces you to really look at that conditioning and look in the mirror in a way that you might not have done at home.
Absolutely.
So I don't think it's required for you to move to do these things, but a lot of times people, they need that ignition for them to really dig into who they are.
1,000%. 1,000%. Yeah, it's the introspection is really real, and I think that it can be very scary, especially when it's so loud. You know, sometimes oftentimes the limitations that are placed on us are much louder than the possibilities. You know, and being in spaces where people are also on that journey with you. And because it's hard, like if you, especially let's say for example from America, and everyone's like, oh, I'm black, you can't do this, you can't do that,
You can't live here.
you can't live here. Or like for me, like this might be like, I'm not trying to trigger people, but like when people like, oh, black people this is the only place that black people can go to. And I'm like, wait, there's like 100 or 95 countries, and you're telling me that we can only go to 20? Like, that don't even sound, and I know this sounds like Kanye, and I know that, like, y'all can say what you want about Kanye, right? Because everyone is multi-layered, but, like, that don't sound godlike to me. And I'm not also saying go to a war-torn country or but my point is that, like, that seems like that's a heavy limitation. I think it's quite different to say, I went here and I didn't have a good experience. Yes, honor that, right? I'm not here to say, like, but to make a blanket statement like this, I'm like, oh no, like, this don't sound good. That's like me being in Thailand and being like, because I'm black, like, I'm not supposed to be here. Like, that don't make any sense.
And everyone's experience is different. Like,
Absolutely.
I have shared with you, like, oh, well, when I was in Morocco, this happened. And I was like, I was afraid to go to Egypt because I'm afraid of it might be similar. And you're like, oh, I was in Egypt and I had this experience. And I'm like, huh. It made me be curious about, okay, maybe I'm generalizing based on certain, frequent whatever. But just to be open, one person's experience doesn't have to be the same for you, but it's up to you to go have the experience and see for yourself. Maybe you were right,
No.
but you won't know until you actually do it.
1,000%. No,
yeah.
and I'm really big on honoring feelings. This is not like me saying that if you experience something that it's not real and you didn't have it, but just bringing it back to the example of, like, we might limit other people or tell, or just ourselves. It's kind of like a societal block. Like, someone will say, don't go here, and you haven't tried it. Or same way, like, do these things and you're going to be happy. And then you do it and you're like, wait, so, like, I don't feel this joy and this happiness. And I think the beauty of going abroad, or just taking a course, like, being able to, like, let me unlayer this. Let me, like, make sure I'm living in alignment to my goals and dreams. Like, for me, that's, like, true freedom. Like, that's really true liberation. And I think, especially if you're watching this and you're black, melanated, like, I feel like that's what our ancestors would want from us. Because, not to turn this into a history thing, but I was just thinking, what was it, Frederick Douglass, right? He was one of abolitionists, and, like, thinking about this man who was born into slavery, right? And then, like, him, like, deciding that I'm gonna, like, speak against this, and, like, it's like this one man with this vision. Like, he was making a decision to go against what was the norm. And I think when you are living in alignment to yourself, what I'm recognizing, this is just an aha moment right now, right? It's like that. It's like Elle doing this, myself. It's like, we're like, nah, to the norm.
Yeah. I don't have to do that.
It's like, I don't have to do that.
I don't have to be confined.
I don't have to be confined.
But with that, it doesn't mean that we don't have fears in the thing that we're about to do. So for you, when you decided to go on this journey for yourself, like, what are some of the fears that came up for you and how did you address them?
That's a really good question. What were my fears?
What was you scared of?
What was I scared
Or just one thing that maybe you might have been scared of before you took that leap for yourself.
You know what? This is going to sound crazy, right? Like, I don't know I think I was a little delusional.
Sometimes that works in your favor, though.
Yeah, I think I was a little delusional. I think that I was riding off of, like, the momentum of trusting myself. Like, I don't think it's like I mentioned to Elle yesterday in a conversation that sometimes I take action and then, like, later on I'll be like, oh, I actually did this.
Yes.
So, because I think maybe if I was thinking about all my barriers, then I probably wouldn't take action.
Yeah.
And to be honest, also I connected with someone on Facebook and, like, had a conversation to make sure that, like, this job was real and, like, so I felt secure in that I wasn't, like, jumping on a plane to, like, for a job and, like, it wasn't real. And I think my faith, maybe at that time, I was unaware of the fact that I really had strong faith, because I do think that when we think of the term faith, at least for me, I think about it like I'm dogmatic and that like I'm part of like a very tight religious sect. And I guess I never thought that faith, I can even have that, even let's say if I'm on a spiritual journey.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I just associated. So I don't think I thought to myself like, oh, I just believe that I am divine and that like it's all gonna work out and like worst case I don't like it and I can come back home. And I think maybe that was it too. I thought, okay, it's not like I hated my job in the States. I had a lot of support, right? I guess I felt that if it didn't work out, I can come back.
You know what? There's so many things I want to say about what you just shared, but like that delusion, I think I have that like hint of delusion as well. And I think sometimes my family is like, what is wrong with you? But I think I also have that delusion in that when people say you're so fearless, I have this fearlessness because to me, nothing is permanent until it is. So like certain things are permanent, death is permanent, babies are permanent, but you know.
Yeah.
But like a lot of times when I make a move or I make a change in my life, I never think of it as this is the end. It's like, oh, I'll have this experience, I'll go learn from this, and if it doesn't work out, okay, whatever. I'll just always go back. Like I never view these things as like, oh my gosh. And I do have faith that things always work out for me, even if it doesn't go exactly how I planned it or how I thought. It's always still working out for my highest good. So I have this
1,000%.
belief, I have this delusion, and I know that I've set up my life and my relationship so that I can always have something to fall back on or some kind of support. Like I'm always good no matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just like,
It's such a
just
good
do
question.
it.
Yeah. And
I'm not saying go out and be reckless, and I would never do that, but just the way that I live my life, I really believe in my heart and everything in my being that I'm always good no matter what, and this is the experience I'm supposed to have in that moment.
1,000%. And and that's the like the mindset part of me, mindset coach, is like when you really believe, like your results show your belief, right? So it's like everything when things start to really line up, like things just feels like seamless. It's like, oh, the divine is really working. Like and it's almost like you can't falter from it. Like you literally have to just be like, trust, show me the way, And I think that's why I even mentioned my spiritual journey. Like my spiritual teacher used to just say, when you're just so hooked up to the divine, to spirit, and like that has to do, your spiritual practices, meditation, like the things you consume. Sometimes when you're so hooked up to that or continuously in that mode, it's almost like, I think that's why probably like a Kanye West seems crazy. Or if you're not a Kanye fan, like if you watch J. Cole's recent interview, and he just said like sometimes you have to be insanely delusional for your dreams, because the whole thing about faith is that you're believing in something that you don't see. And the thing that humbles me, I think about everything that you use, everything, including this phone we're talking on, this video, is because of someone's like thought. Like it wasn't there before. Like that to me in itself, wow. Like to know that wasn't there. Like that enough allows me to tap into that, or gives me permission. To be like, okay, even though I'm alone in this thought right now, like I don't see anyone believing it, right? I'm like, I'm going to just tap it. I'm going to trust it. It's like me when I talk about, I want to be married, I want to have babies, and I have no evidence because I'm currently single, right? Okay, if you're looking for me, Zaddy.
Hey, that's temporarily,
yes. But like, it's like almost like having no evidence for that, and notice that not having evidence does not necessarily mean it's not on its way. And I think that's like the dance that I'm always working on and always looking to strengthen, and why, especially if you're Black and you're watching this, like sometimes like you almost can't look at what's in front of you for what's possible if what's in front of you is not what you want.
Right, because if you're only focused on what is in front of you, you're going to stay focused there, and that's all you're ever going to experience.
Yes.
Like, you have to be open to what's beyond your current reality, and that goes into when I first learned about like law of attraction, I was just like, oh my gosh, but it really is just faith. It really is just faith. And I like that we're having this conversation about different perspectives of what faith means. Because for me, growing up, I was brought up in church as well. And so when I started to, I don't want to say stray away, but be open to other perspectives outside of what I was taught, the word faith was like, oh my gosh, no, I don't. I felt like I needed to turn my back on everything that I was taught. But really, these are universal principles. It's not just about a particular religion or sect or anything like that. These are universal laws. Like,
1000%.
so I don't know. I'm just loving this whole conversation about what faith actually means and how it can apply to these lives that we're creating. You have to have it. You have to have this faith. And really, faith is delusional. So you have to have this hint of delusion to create a life that you actually want to live and that your joy is to wake up to each day.
1000%. I mean, it's almost like I feel like, of course, without the logical part, but I feel like that's what keeps me grounded. You won't really hear me talk about money and all this stuff for it, because I really feel like when I'm tapped into my faith and I'm working my mindset, it's like the money comes, the relationship comes, the friendship comes. It's never the reverse for me. And it's something that we all have access to, which is beautiful. Like, and I think that's always what I want to speak to. Like, that thing that we all have access to. I can't talk to you. I'm not going to be the person going to tell you how to get rich real quick. I'm not going to tell you, you know what I mean? Like, I could promise you a flourishing business. But what I can promise you is, like, being tapped in, working on your mindset, those things, knowing who you are. Like, those 3 things really help you to cultivate and to live your best life no matter where you are in the world.
Exactly. Because everything we're talking about, we're talking about things in the span of moving abroad, but it's not just about moving abroad. Because another conversation I've had recently is, you're experiencing certain things in America and maybe things in your relationships aren't working out, and you think, oh, if I move here, then things will be better. No, whatever problem you had there, whatever things, it's going to follow you wherever you are. You have to deal with these things in your life, your day-to-day, because it's going to be with you. Wherever you are, there it goes. So you got to deal with it. So these things, self-awareness, all of the things that we're talking about, that needs to be precedence or take precedence wherever you are, because it goes wherever you go.
1000%. I always say wherever you go, there you are. So, and that's why I don't teach people about, you need to move to this specific place. And that's like going back to your second question, like creating home wherever you are. That's why these practices are important, and they will empower you so that now you're making a choice based on either your soul or just like, I just want to be here. And it no longer feels like escapism. And it no longer feels like I think this place is going to fix me up.
Exactly.
And I know for me, I never wanted to operate from that space. It's different, of course, if I'm going to a place and I want to be intentional. I want to go here because the opportunity is large. Of course, that's beautiful. But I never want to move to a place because, this is going to make me better, or thinking that like looking outside of myself, essentially.
And I think this is also interesting that I'm having this conversation with you, and I had a conversation last week with Melissa from episode 1 in this series about astrocartography, and that's the astrology of place. And so that's all about like bringing in the energy of these different places. But even then, she's not like, you have to move here to call in love, or you have to move this to this place to call in, whatever it is, success in your business. But we can take these things that we're learning and use all of these tools and modalities wherever we are. But it's all about you having this self-awareness, you tapping in and being grounded, and just, having that spiritual relationship with, in whatever capacity like that means for you. But I'm just loving these conversations because we all have access to these tools. It's not like you have to be a certain person or have this amount of money to tap into these
You
things.
don't. Yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
All right, so the other thing I want to know, since you have been abroad for 9 whole years, almost a decade abroad, that
Yeah,
is just
man.
like, oh my gosh. So for someone who is thinking about making that change, and it's not because they're trying to escape life, they just want to have this experience abroad. But what's some steps that you would recommend to someone who's thinking of making that transition?
Okay, so depending on the headspace that you're in, and just because I always believe in nurturing the mind, body, and soul, I think just knowing your why, like knowing the reason why you want to do it, that's something nice to journal. So, like for my heart space folks, like just get into your heart, like, why do you want to do this? I think being reflective about that. Number two, thinking about the area that you'd like to go. So I know that this seems like out of the heart, but just like, where do you want to go? Do you want to go to South America? Do you want to go to the Middle East? Do you want to go to Asia? And then also thinking about what's your safety net. Like, are you going there so that you can also work? And I think it's a combination of like knowing what would make you feel comfortable. Like distance wise, because some of us, depending on what your age, maybe being close to your family is important. So let's say if you're in the northeast of like the US, Colombia and places like that might be cool. I think also knowing how long or how soon do you want to make this decision. So like, how can you prep for this? Like, are you trying to do this in 6 months? Because time flies. Are you trying to do this in a year? Yeah. And like, what things would you need to prepare or have done before? So like for me, for example, prior to moving to the UAE, which is where I started, like I saved a certain amount of money because I didn't know I was moving there for a job, right? Which some nowadays most people move and they have like a business or they have an online
Like
job,
a
remote job, excuse me, yeah. So knowing like how much money do I need to save,
Yeah.
and like that question is going to vary depending on where you're from and what your comfort level is. Like I was from New York City, a very expensive place. So for me, I might have said, oh, I saved like $10,000 at that time going to the UAE. I was imagining what kind of lifestyle would I like to have while I'm waiting for a paycheck. Or the country, right? The UAE is significantly expensive compared to like a Thailand, right? So someone could probably save 5,000 and it'll be okay, or even 1,000 depending on where they're going.
Yeah.
So I think knowing the country that you're going to and like how much is like a living expense for a day. Because no one's trying to move to a country to struggle.
Right.
Right?
We ain't got time for that.
We don't got time for struggle. And I think that would bring unwanted stress. I think that if you have any health concerns, like making sure that you have health insurance, making sure that the place that you're going, like they have the medication. So that's always like that technical stuff. So I think it's just kind of like money always comes up, right? So like saving a certain amount, knowing how much you need to feel comfortable, knowing the country and the conversion rates. I think there's like that technical stuff. And then of course, like what's important to you, and this kind of goes with you, right? It's like knowing yourself, like, do you like hot weather? Do you like seasons? Do you have an aversion to pollution? Like for me, I struggle with pollution in China because of like, my allergies, right? Like how long can you, like knowing the weather, knowing, do I need a city to live in a place that's city? And this still comes back to you. Like you need to check in with her program, like knowing yourself and like what's most important. Like I learned through time. And also, I'm going to say this too. There are going to be things you will learn as you're in a country. You might wow yourself, right? You might be like, oh, I didn't know I cared about this. And I'll give you an example. Living in the UAE, yes, I was going to the gym and all those things, but I think it was until I moved to China that I really became very committed to like my well-being and just movement, and realizing that I like being in places where I can go outside and take a walk. So like that allowed me to realize that if I live, even when I leave Bangkok, right, I still need to live in a place where I can go outside and take a walk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that would mean I need to kind of like cooler air temperature. I don't want to be sweltering heat like a UAE.
Right.
So I would say that. And then let's say if you're a woman of a certain age, actually it doesn't matter the age, but like if dating is important to you, and let's say you're like, I won't date this type of person, don't move to a country where you wouldn't date a certain culture. This is no shade, but like, don't set yourself up to win always.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think, and there's nothing in my opinion that's too stupid or unreasonable. Like if it's something that's important to you, then it's important to you. Like don't think that, oh, I wouldn't, I don't like this food. It's like almost like, oh, I don't like Thai food, but like I'm gonna move to Thailand. Don't do that to yourself.
All
Like
right.
don't go there and then like be upset.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you really like Spanish food, let's say for example, move to like Central America, or I think that, yeah. So I think it's a combination of like your program, right? Getting to know who you are, what you need, and then of course those hardcore or logistical things like how much money do I need to save, having proper insurance, am I going so that I can kind of like take a sabbatical where I'm not working, am I going to a place so I can get a job, if money is tight, how can I secure a job, will this job work with the time zone difference. So I think it always comes back to you and like what you need. And as I mentioned already, sometimes you're not going to know what you need. Like sometimes you learn actually when you get to the place. Even community. I'm very big on, and Elle mentioned this even on her Instagram. I mean, you're probably watching this, you probably already passed, but talking about like my 2-4 line and like, two meaning, is it two or the four?
The 2 is the hermit, and
Yeah.
the 4 is the networker. So
Yeah.
we thrive when we have community and we're tapping into that
Yes.
community.
So,
And that's
like-
something that, I'm always telling people, like, pay attention to what your profile lines are.
Yeah, so like being in a place where you can connect with other individuals. So like a place might be amazing, but it might not be amazing if you're like not with people.
Yeah, because that can, like, mess with your mental health, your peace
Yeah.
of mind, and then that could mess up your physical health. So all of these things are really important. That's why for me, everything comes back to self-awareness.
Yes.
But then also, like, we do get that experiential wisdom because I've gone to places where I couldn't have known before I got there that it wasn't gonna be something I liked, but I had that experience, and then it's like, okay, now I know this isn't for me. Okay,
1,000%.
and I don't even look at it as, oh, I made a mistake by going there. It's like, now I know.
Yes. And then also I will say the thing I'd add to it is like also keep in mind that like you also get to bring something to that country, that place that you're going to. I think oftentimes a lot of these communities is like we're looking for outward acceptance, and I think sometimes going and knowing that you get to bring value, you get to bring the essence of who you are, that's just like a little bonus thing. And if something isn't there that you want, that feels within reach to yourself, you get to create, right?
Ooh, yes.
For me, I understood that after being in China that I really need community, but I wanted specifically an entrepreneurial community. When I arrived here in Bangkok, they didn't have that, or I wasn't aware of it. So guess what I did? I posted something in a Facebook group, and honestly, I thought I was gonna get like 5 members. Like now, I have a thriving group of over 70 women who, and I just like humble brag for myself.
Yes.
But I may have complained and said, "Oh, there's no one out here. There's no people.
I hate Bangkok because they don't have no.
I hate Bangkok because there's nothing."
Create it.
You can create it. So, and I said within reach, right? Like something that feels doable. So, it's always this like I live in the world of and both. So like knowing that you can find things that are important to you, and then within reach there are things that you get to create. And I think that when you dance with both, you start to have like an amazing experience abroad for sure.
I love that. I love that. And I think a lot of times when we move abroad, sometimes it can be a struggle to find find your people. You don't know really where to look. And I get this question a lot. People asking me, well, you seem like you're meeting a lot of people. How are you doing that? So for you, living abroad for 9 years, how do you, outside of creating your own group, how do you connect with people?
Oh, first of all, I follow people on IG. Just think about Elle and I, though we met in a coaching program, but I really feel that even if we were in a coaching program and we were following each other on IG, this would have still happened because we're very aligned in values, and we're both in a very same, I know she don't want me to say this, but we're in the same age bracket. And sometimes that like matters, no, because it's easy to connect on like our values and like what we care about. So I think following people on IG, you get a sense of who they are, and nothing's better than being with people who are of the same mindset or similar, right? So I think following people on IG is like, I think it's just important because you can get into a DMs. Of course, joining Facebook groups, and not only one, like join several. Like for me, I always join like the brothers and sisters because I'm Black, right? So I join like the brothers and sisters of whatever country that I'm in. I'm also Jamaican.
Or I'm like in Black and Bali for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm also Jamaican, so oftentimes I might also follow like a Caribbean group. I haven't found one here actually in Thailand. I haven't looked for one, but generally I'd follow that. But then I also follow entrepreneurship because like I'm a coach. I will follow like yoga and spirituality. So I make sure that I follow all the groups based on my interests. And then oftentimes there's like a cross cultural or cross like mix, like you might find someone that's in several groups, and like that's always like a great sign of like, okay, we're really aligned in our interests. But I try my best not to limit myself to just one kind of group. And then of course, like I go on apps like meetup.com. Meetup is still alive and well.
I actually used to use Meetup when I lived in New York.
Same.
And so this is things you can do worldwide.
Yes. But if you're a woman, Girl Gone International. I'm part of the Facebook community. I'm also in the WhatsApp. I was in the group when I was in Abu Dhabi, Shanghai. And the beautiful thing about all these groups is that you'll notice that in certain cities, in certain countries, some are better than others. So that's why you just have to, it's such an intentional act. You can't just like only use one thing. It's almost like this mosaic where you have to kind of use everything, and then go out then go out
in real life.
Go out in real life and experience, and know yourself, know your threshold. Some of us might, sometimes too much socializing, depending on your goals and dreams, can get in the way. So like sometimes you want to do that, because I'm having that reality check. Not that I'm over socializing, but learning that like, okay, I gotta have a business. So being around entrepreneurs more would be beneficial for me than just being out and trying to go to a rooftop, which I'm not, but like I'm just using that as an example. And that will go back to like your goal. Like why are you there? Like it's different to be in a country because you're on a sabbatical and you're chilling versus I'm on a country because I'm trying, not on a country, in a country because I have goals and dreams.
And I'm building.
So
you took the time to get clear about these things, so you know you're moving through your life with intention. Like that's always the most important thing.
1,000%. Because you are the what's the word? You are the average of the people that you keep around you. And I even think about that with who I would want to work with me, is that you're wanting to thrive abroad. You wanting to move beyond limitation. You're wanting to have an experience, because I think for me, oftentimes I saw living abroad as like, it's kind of like, oh, you're just taking a break from life and it's like you're not serious. And I'm like, no, this is actually a lifestyle.
Yeah, I think people really think that. They think I'm just over here playing or I'm on vacation. I'm like, no, I live here. This is my day-to-day life now. I'm not running from anything. Like I'm just creating this lifestyle for me that's outside of my home country.
Yeah. And I think for me, that was the biggest. I think in the last 2.5 years, that's something I've taken seriously. Like before, because I didn't see anyone doing it as like a lifestyle, at least even someone that looked like me. So I think for me, I've taken the charge, like, maybe that would be my lane of helping others. Like, how do you make this a lifestyle?
Yeah.
Which is why I say I dance between these two things. Because, yes, it is fun. It is adventurous. There are parts of it that can feel almost like I'm on holiday. And then there's also the real life stuff. Like, oh, am I investing for my future? Oh, am I taking care of my health? Which, if you follow me, like you see, I'm always posting working out, because I do it also because it's important, because that allows me to live. But it's like I need to be healthy. Like, no one's trying to be like sick in a foreign country.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it is that dance of knowing that like there are these other things that matter, like health insurance, investing, nurturing your relationships and your family. And then there's this other part that's like new, like, oh, we gonna check out a cute cafe today, or what country am I meeting you in? Like, there's that, but both can actually happen.
Yeah.
Like, they both can happen.
So I know that you kind of touched on some of the things that you do and the work that you do as a coach. How can people learn more about you and work with you? Like, what are some of the things that you offer or have on the horizon?
All right, thank you. I like how you said that. So right now, I mean, if you just want to have like a pick my brain session, I still have the link in my bio on the Soulful Expat. If you just have some just like, I just want to ask you some questions, you're on your way, you don't need me for anything else but that, you can do that. Or, I have my upcoming program, which is essentially Bliss and Bloom Abroad.
I love the name.
Because I believe that both can happen. I believe that both needs to happen on your journey, and that's coming up for August. We'll just go through certain pillars: dating abroad, spiritual tools.
I need more help on the whole dating abroad.
Yes, I love talking about dating and love. I feel like it's almost in alignment with,
because it's a whole lifestyle. It's not just one thing. Like you said, these are pillars of life. Yeah. And so I'm glad that you addressing
absolutely. I really feel that you get to have a full life abroad. And I think just nurturing one aspect is almost, to me, a red flag that there's probably some unhealed or parts. And I say that because that was me. Like, I'm not saying that because it's like, oh, why am I only putting effort in this? Is there a part of me that believes that this aspect of my life is like not possible? So whether that's creating a business or dating or even choosing to live like this, is there a part of me that believes that that's not true? And I realized, for me it was. Like, I realized that I was taking on people's limitations and ideas and making them my own without trying.
Yep.
So I want other women to feel empowered and know that they can dance in both. And especially if you are someone that operates from the heart space, which, can see, people might call us like free spirits, and that's always seen as a bad thing or a negative thing. But yeah, you can be a free spirit who's grounded.
Exactly.
And that's what I want for you.
I love that. So I will definitely link your Instagram and all of your links in the description so you guys can find Nicole. But I just want to thank you so much for being my second guest in the Muse Life Series. And we are planning some amazing collaborations in the future. So this will not be the last time you see me and Nicole. We might be virtually next time. But yes, more on the horizon. And so thank you.
Thank you, darling.
And thank you guys for watching. And I will see you in the next of the series.
Yay!